when I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
my head up.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just
Got it.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Moore?
Oh, my heart,
Happy 20th anniversary.
my heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? John.
dare to be me and dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a
The doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all and more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
It's showtime, top of the morning to you. First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. You got to unmute yourself there. Dr. Paul Miller, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, good brother. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
I am doing well and excited to be here with you.
I see you got, is that the Kappa sign behind you? What's that?
Oh man, that's disrespectful early in the morning.
The app?
That's disrespectful early in the morning. There's only one that's of greatness. The streets are paved in purple and gold, man.
Oh, the Omegas.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Elon Musk is not Omega, is he? Didn't he? What was he doing?
No, I think that was a Hail Hitler. I think that was something that was something else. A whole different. He
That was not Greek at all.
No, he was representing something entirely different, man. We don't represent that. We represent manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift.
That's all right. What's your field of endeavor there, Dr. Miller?
So my doctorate is in executive leadership, but I am an educator by trade. I am also an author and a speaker who is working to build a global brand.
What are your books?
So I have 5 books currently. So initially, my first book was off my research, and it was Black females' experience with cyberbullying in an urban environment. And so it was kind of like breaking the conflict and trying to help people understand the problem differently, because the problem was initially only understood from a white female's perspective and how it was affecting our Black females. The second book that I put out was called We Need to Do Better. And that's about changing the mindset of children through community, family, and education. And so that one there, it was, again, written more for everybody. The first one is more for the eggheads out there, the scholars and the dissertation type of folks, and research folks, rather. And then We Need to Do Better, though, pushed me to write a 2.0, where interesting. So what ended up happening is I tried to put We Need to Do Better in one of my schools as a curriculum, as a book to be utilized in the 9th grade with kids. The kids were loving it, but I had white teachers that didn't like it. So I had a white teacher that kind of protested, that didn't want the book in there and thought it was self-serving and all this other stuff. And so she claimed she didn't know how to teach it. So she said, I don't know how to teach this. What
part of the country was this? Mississippi?
No, sir. This is New York. This was the state capital of New York State, Albany, New York. And so with that being happening, I said, you know what? Because I'm not going to let you be an obstacle, because she said, I don't know how to teach this. It was crazy because you know how to teach Shakespeare and you know how to teach Othello and To Kill a Mockingbird, but you can't teach my book. So I felt like, it definitely was racially motivated and some other things. But I said, you know what, I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. So I'm going to create a 2.0 that has a curriculum in it that has the lesson plans already laid out on how to teach it. And so I can teach teachers, and not only teach teachers, but teachers could teach students. And what's crazy is, so with her efforts to try to break me and stop things, it really motivated me to push on. And actually, she made me some more money. So I appreciate her. So thank you. I done did something else. And when I leave you today, I'm going to train some teachers in another city. That exact one of the curriculums that's coming right from the book. So that was part 3. Then my 4th and 5th book is called From the Gutter to Greatness. And those are my most recent books. And From the Gutter to Greatness is all about changing our mindset. Changing our mindset specifically, it's for all people, but specifically males and Black males to, we need to heal from our trauma. We got so much trauma and emotional baggage that we need to do something different. And it's about trying to change that and change our mindsets so we can move to our move to our greatness sooner. And so with all of that being said, that greatness is what we're trying to achieve as men of color, but for all people. And so there's a workbook that goes with that, moving from your gutter to greatness. That's a 21-day challenge because it says it takes 21 days to break a habit. So that's my little collection. Working on a children's book right now as we speak.
Wow, where do I start?
Yes, sir. Let's unpack it.
How is the world of authoring?
As I know, it is. It's not easy out there. What they say, the expression, it's hard out here for a pimp. And I say that jokingly, but it's not easy because they say, stereotype is, they say if you want to hide something from a Black man, put it in a book, which is crazy to me because we all know
who wrote the first books.
We all know what it is, right? But the truth behind that is getting people to read and to understand and to work on a lot of the things that I write about are working on ourselves so we could be better for others. That's always a challenge. So it's hard, and the getting the book out there isn't so difficult. The difficult part is afterwards. So what are you going to do with it, and how are you going to use it to really make your marks?
Did you self-publish or did you use a publisher?
So I have done a combination. So my first 2 was a hybrid company called Scheffler & Eckert. My third one was I published it through my own company, Urbane Press. And then my last 2, I used Perfect Publishing, which is a brother from around your way, Dr. Ken Rashawn, and his company, Perfect Publishing. And I've been working with them now to get the last 2 out there and just working to spread this message and get it out there to the masses.
Which do you prefer, self-publishing or going through a publisher?
That's interesting because there's pluses and minuses on both ends. On one end, when you self-publish, and I had a team who was working with me, so I have the ability to get it out there and get it out there relatively easily. So I've kind of developed that. So if you're doing it completely on your own, it can be difficult, but I had a team. So we got it out there, and it makes it easy because, there's no red tape and you see a little bit more of the profits. However, with the publisher, you get a little bit of a formability behind you. You get an established name, you get other authors. You also, with the publishing house that I'm working with, you get some marketing and some support. So, I think, it really depends on the individual's needs or where they're at also in life and financially and what their goals are. But so far, my experience working in the publishing company has been good. Perfect Publishing has definitely done me right and working to help me build this brand to get this message all over this world.
So you got a couple of fans here. Christopher Wilson says, I'm on the board of 2 individuals that are based in New York, Real Boss Kids. Is working on a reading curriculum to help the youth of Rochester and the state of New York. Where are you originally from, Doc?
Hey, Chris, how you doing, sir? Good brother. I know he's definitely working on some good stuff. I am from Rochester, New York. I'm from the murder capital of New York, and I don't say that with excitement, but I say it with, this is probably one of the realest places in terms of very impoverished, very difficult struggles. Last time they published graduation rates for Black males, it was 9%. That means graduates were only at 9%. 91% of the kids did not graduate. Black males did not graduate from the city. Right now, Rochester's 646 in education in New York State. I grew up in the housing projects here. I grew up in the middle of the thick of things, just trying to, realize that I need to make it out and do something different. And education really has been my guide and my greatest equalizer.
When I think of Rochester, I just think of cold.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's cold. I think, to be exact, though, this has been a difficult winter, but there's been almost 81 inches of snow since the start of winter this year, and it's doubled compared to last year. It's been every day has been crazy here. It actually is breaking today. It's not bad. It's about 40 degrees out. It's almost like I'm ready to go outside in some shorts and some sandals. That's how it's crazy.
That sounds cold.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need a little more heat than that. My God, has Rochester dealt with utility bill hikes as we have here in Baltimore?
Oh yeah, Rochester has a monopoly. So the Rochester Gas and Electric, they control everything here, and people are paying out their behinds for gas and electric. It just it makes it very difficult. I know there's some services that help and support here, but it's definitely a difficult place, man, because it's so cold, because it's so impoverished. It's created a mindset with folks that often is broken. And my goal is let's fix it. Let's work on it. Let's be a solution instead of part of the problem.
Well, what is the industry in Rochester?
So there's an industry in Rochester. But I guess if you had to ask, I would probably say it's shifted and it's changed. One of the biggest employers is the medical industry, with the University of Rochester being huge and strong hospital and all of the medical, the URMC. I would say education is pretty heavy in Rochester, but it's crazy. Education in Rochester has been failing for 30 years. So it's one of those things where even the main industries are not succeeding. Where it used to be Kodak, Xerox, it used to be the blue collar kind of a factory type of town. And when the digital change shifted, Kodak, Xerox, Bashalam, all those were major companies that were here that were servicing the population. There's about 250,000 people in Rochester. It's a medium-sized city. If you put the surrounding county, it's about 1.2 million. And with all that being said, what is behind that, Kodak itself used to employ, 50,000 people. Now I think they employ 300 people. So a lot of folks, especially our folks, could make a middle-class income previously by working at Kodak, Xerox, Bashalam. And as that faded, it changed the tide. At the same time that it faded, the crack epidemic hit Rochester hard and really broke us as a city.
So then there's mass incarceration.
Oh, absolutely. Even if you look at most recently, Rochester had the highest car thefts in the nation with our, I just say jokingly, beloved Kia boys. They've been stealing cars here left and right. The wintertime is slowed down a little bit. But, if you go back to last spring and summer, we had the highest car thefts in the nation. And just, kids are running crazy here because there's a lack of stability, education. There's all kinds of issues here that need to be addressed, but we got a lot of people talking about it and not really wanting to change the way that it needs to happen. And so as people, there are people who want to be change makers, and it's just, working with them to try to do that.
So as Chris has alluded, I imagine there's a dichotomy. You have those who are working to go somewhere, and just like here in Baltimore, there are those who might want to stand on a corner all day. Do they stand on corners in Rochester?
You know, some, you know, it's not.
It sounds like a cold experience.
The corner thing, you know, especially in the summertime, it still happens. You know, the corner thing I think has played out a little bit, but you know, there's still that's happening, and there's huge disparaging difference and inequities. There's the have and the have-nots here, and we even have that amongst our folks, our people of color. And you know, we really got to break a lot of silos. There's a huge crabs in a bucket mentality here that we got to work to change, and that we need good people who are fighting against that.
It's been a failing educational system for 30 years, yet I still achieved honor roll student through my childhood trauma and challenges.
She used to be one of my students. Yeah, she used to be one of my students. So, you know, good sister, was always studious, was always, regardless of anything that she went through, she did always maintain and handle her business. And you know, I congratulate her for that and growing into a fine young woman who is doing some good stuff for herself. And you know, it definitely is. You know, it's a challenging city, and there are people who make it, and we do have the ability to succeed. But some things got to change, man. And you know, I'm just trying to do my part to help lead that change and lead that charge, specifically in the realm of education.
So how's your book being received?
Oh man, I got some good reviews. I actually got a tour coming up called the Educated Black Man Tour. We're going to work with my brother here, Doni Glover, try to see if we can get a Baltimore date on the map. But we got Charlotte, we got North Carolina, North Carolina, we got New York City. We also have where else? England, be speaking at Oxford. We also have Thailand and South Africa. So my book is being received well all over the world, man. And you know, what's interesting though is that, you know, I have to give it away at home for people to read it. So you know, it's always crazy because people support you where you go other places more than you get supported at home, and that's crazy to me. But I'm okay with giving it away because I'm not. You know, I'm more concerned with people hearing the message.
No, I'm not giving it away. I'm not giving it away. We pay everybody else. We have $1.6 trillion in annual disposable income. Right. We support everybody else.
I don't disagree with you, but
it's unacceptable.
I'm so passionate about the message that I want the message, and I know people need to hear it. I know people need this for self-development, and I'm not going to allow money to get in the way, because what I do know is that I know God provides, and when I'm able to do his work and I'm able to get and help change people's thoughts and mindset, and I'm able to get inside of their living rooms, whether it's through this interview or through this through a book, and you know, I'm able to help work them through some thoughts that they need to change or heal from. You know, I feel like I'm doing God's work, and I know that, you know, monetarily I'm going to get paid, because I'm always going to get paid, because that's my, you know, I believe I've always wanted two things in life. One is I believe God has commissioned me to help others and create change, specifically in the education realm, but to make sure I'm always giving back, and I put that first and foremost. My other thing is I want to be wealthy doing it, so I don't have to be broke because I'm in education, and you know, I do all right, and I'm going to continue to climb and do well, because that's never going to be in the way. So I just try to follow what God wants from me, my brother.
God wants you to get paid.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that.
People in Rochester got to pull out. How much is the book?
$20.
They had to pull out the 20.
Yeah, pull out the dub. Pull it out.
I had a best friend tell me, he said, I'm your best friend. You should give me the book.
Right.
I said, you can't possibly be my best friend because I don't think like that.
You should be buying it and supporting. I totally agree. But I don't disagree with you. I would be lying if I said I disagreed. But I also, you know, I'm trying to get it out there, and, you know, even working with my publishing company, some of it is some marketing tactics too, because what I've been told is getting reviews from folks is almost more important than sales. So if I can get reviews from folks, because I got it in their hands, it's going to spread globally and spread to the masses quicker.
So how do we fix America? I mean, the educational system nationwide is not working for us. And then there are those people who would argue not everybody is made for college. Doc, I saw a cat around on the strip riding a dirt bike, one-handed, blindfold, turning around backwards, navigating traffic. As soon as they get locked up and go over to jail, they put them in class. The teenagers, the young ones. They make them go to school. And so why not just go now when there's no legal ramifications? What is this fear of education? Where did this come from? And when did we take on the mentality, especially considering a lot of ancestors had to learn to read when it was illegal? What is this foolishness that we have now accepted as the norm?
Oh, you must be asking me to go in for a minute, because excuse me, I
just stuck on stupid, man.
I agree with you. So I know that bike riding is big in Baltimore and Philly there, and I understand that people need outlets and there's other creative talents. So I think there's a multifaceted answer to what you're saying. The surface part is addressing the educational system to make it capture the needs of the different learners. So, for example, and then I'm going to go into the deeper part of it all, the second part, but to capture the different needs. So, for example, what I haven't shared was when I was a school leader and I ran schools in Albany, New York for 11 years there as part of my 25-year career. And I had a school for all Black males, Black and brown young men, 97% Black and brown young men in 90% poverty. And we averaged for the 11 years a 95% graduation rate, 100% acceptance to college, and millions of dollars in scholarship money, upwards of 25 million. And financially, we became stable as well because they're building systems that work. And part of that is providing a comprehensive education for kids who might not value education. And I'll get into the why I believe they don't often value it nowadays and the mindset that developed and how and why it developed. But I often say that it can be done by providing that comprehensive education. So yes, we pushed college prep. We had certain systems in place that we had high expectations. So if you set a high expectation for somebody, they will rise and meet that. But you also have to put the supports around in there to be able to pull them from where they're at to where they need to go. So some of the things we also put in, because we were college prep and I knew every kid wasn't going to college, we put in a construction tech lab where kids could get OSHA and NCCR certified. We also put in a game design lab where they learn game design, coding, and cybersecurity certification. We put in a music production studio where kids could make and sell their songs and their tracks. And also we're able to utilize that as an outlet. We also built a full service barbershop where they were able to get their apprentice license and become barbers and change their mindset. But we never stopped pushing the rigor of college as well, because we wanted them to have the option to do both or to do one or the other. And so changing the educational system to meet the needs of the learners is important. And so that's one piece of it. But to go into the deeper, because you asked why, right? And so especially if I'm going to talk about Black and brown people, specifically our Black people, it goes back to the systemic institutional racism that has been designed and purposeful, that I go back over 400 years to say it's been embedded and inbreeded into the DNA that's been purposeful. And so it was strategic. They said the slave masters used to say, I can make a slave and still have them enslaved 400 years from now. And think about it. We absolutely have that. So when you think about the things they used to do, was very intentional. They used to emasculate the Black male, take him out of the household, remove him from the family, make the Black woman feel like they didn't need the Black man. And part of not needing the Black man became like almost frozenly dependent and created a mindset where they were loving their sons and raising their daughters. And so like part of what that means for our Black women is that they were raising their daughters for safety purposes and keeping them safe and keeping them able to maintain without being hurt, harmed, sold, beaten, raped, whatever they were trying to do. And the Black males, they did the same thing, but they did this by making them mentally weak and physically strong. And by mentally weakness, what I mean by that is they wanted them to be good field hands that worked out in the field so they wouldn't be beaten a soul, but were physically strong to do that, but mentally weren't able to stand up against the tides. And so like I often ask young Black men, so, and if I ask you this, Doni, and I know the answer, but if I don't ever promote violence, so I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but if I walked up to you and smacked you, what you gonna do? Right? We fighting, right?
As it relates to slavery, as if you were a slave
no. Just now, put it in recent time. So somebody's in your studio there, and they walk up to you and they smack the piss out of you. What you gonna do? What's your reaction as a Black man?
Yeah, we're fighting.
Right? We fighting, right? So my thing is, we're taught to be physically tough, but what ends up happening is what we often aren't taught, and is systemically passed down, is to be mentally tough. And so when I say that, now there's people that break that cycle, right? And there's people that break that cycle, but I will ask a kid, so why when that grade slapped you and why when that schoolwork slapped you, you ain't slap it back? So why when you had a mental or emotional trauma that you need to overcome and that you need to work through, go over, around, or under, you often find a way to deal with it differently and avoid it and run away from it. But that has to do with a mental ingrained toughness that we have to continue to break that cycle. And part of it is bringing the Black families back together. But you look at it, it's eroded over the years. And then on top of all of that, we know we can go down the timeline. I know you're a historian of all the things that systemically have been done to continue to oppress folks. But with all of that being said, moving forward, and part of the issues and the problems are still here today because there's continuous feeding the spirit negatively. So even you look at our music, and our kids walk around with AirPods in, and they walk around with listening to things that are not feeding their spirit the right way. And you know what? And do I listen to it? Am I guilty? Absolutely. But I also know fiction from reality. And I also have been rooted in a spiritual guidance that is different. So I'm able to defend against it. But we have to reteach some of these values and change some things, because ultimately we end up an uneducated America because we don't value the things we're supposed to value. You asked me and I could keep going, but it's a loaded answer, man. It's why we got to work to help change and replant seeds and resow them and re-educate our folks to really look at things differently with the values that we need to be able to actually saying replenish and replace the mindset that people have to get the better results that we need.
We're not as married as we used to be.
No, I believe 1 in every 3 households is to single moms, single Black mothers.
1 in 3, I thought it was more like 70% single mother households in the Black community.
Yeah, I believe it's actually 75%. So maybe my math is wrong, but it is about 75%.
Do you know who the most married community is in America today? It used to be Black people. In the 40s, the 50s, our numbers were very high, 85%. It was unheard of. It was not the norm. The norm was getting married and having children. That was generally the norm. But then social services, I'm sure you saw the movie Claudine, James Earl Jones. He was playing a trash man. He had to sneak out the window, out the back door when the social worker came. This imagery. And I tell you, not just single mother households, but the media. And now the media, which used to be television, is now in the ear pods. It's on the phone.
Yes, sir.
Imagery, the things we laugh at.
Right. And, you know, everything
The
that
things
just,
that are funny that our comedians make funny, and then Hollywood doubles down and they'll take the most ignorant of things to lift up, but the most powerful things kind of get muffled.
and that's because the mindsets have been developed. But you think even the use of the N word, right? And so that's a word that carries so much trauma and so much hurt and so much pain behind it.
White people know not to use that word around black people. Let's be clear.
Let's be very clear.
There are
Right?
rules to the game. They know they use that word. You say, what happens if somebody come and slap the puppy chow out of me on the show?
Right.
Okay, so the N word has its what do you call it? Boundaries.
Yes, sir. And
Especially in 2025, because we've seen some captured videos of some people saying some things they should not have said.
Oh, absolutely. And you think of that, but I'll go a step further to say that we're so comfortable using it amongst ourselves as a term of endearment that, you know, part of why I bring that up is because that's part of that mindset. Like, that's okay. But it's not okay when your grandmother has had or been exposed to somebody hanging from a tree being called that, you know, and that's or your great grandmother, because that's not that long ago. We go back 40, 50 years. And there's been people that we all have relatives that were exposed to that. And so when I say all of that, that mindset that's developed where we try to take that where we're trying to say, oh, that's going to take our power back. You know, that's when you have a pile of poop and you put more poop on it, it's still poop. Like that doesn't make any sense until you clean the poop up. You gonna stink. You know,
let's be honest. We cannot blame this current generation for monetizing the N-word, for making money off of the N-word.
Why?
It's not their fault. They grew up in a world where this word was thrown around.
Absolutely.
But I think it starts. We as black men, we got to raise these babies. 70% single mother household, or the fact that black men make up 38% of the people in America's prisons.
Oh, absolutely. But only 13% of the population.
Something so that this is a war. And we've got to get our young men to understand they are born into a war. It's not cute, it's not sexy, it's not funny. Malcolm said, entertainers have never been our leaders.
Nope.
We get it twisted. I love the music, I love the culture.
Me too.
But dude, you're not my political conscience.
Not
I'm gonna
at
need
all.
you to have several seats, you know?
And they're fighting the wrong war. They're fighting the war that's against ourselves. And
To be accepted by Hollywood.
Yep. Instead of changing the narrative, and that's what I write about. That's what all this about for me. And in the gut of the greatness, Donnie, it's all about, you know, how do we heal from our emotional trauma and taking our gutters. Like when you have the gutters on your house and it's clogged with leaves and the water is backing up and it's messing up your house, you got to unclog it so that the water flows freely so your house isn't broken. And that's really what I'm trying to get my brothers, especially, but all people to kind of look at is unclog your gutters. Let's work on healing from our own emotional baggage and trauma and the socialization and the lessons that we learned as kids that often weren't rooted in the values necessary to create the success that we need. Let's work on healing those and moving those out of the way and doing it differently so that you can move into your greatness so we can fight the war against the real people that we need to be fighting against. And that's the systems that keep trying to oppress us and break us.
You ever been to a 12-step meeting?
I haven't. No, I haven't. I've heard and witnessed some.
Getting an addict into a 12-step meeting, that's similar to your challenge of getting our young men to deal,
Preach.
and young women.
Yes, sir. And that's
deal
where
with their trauma.
and that's where absolutely, and that's where I created.
It hurts. The
Yes,
truth
sir.
hurts. We just got to help them understand it. Once you confront that truth, that's the hardest part.
Yes, yes, sir. You
Because
know,
you're tearing down barriers, it gets easier.
and understanding who you are and who you're meant to be, and coming to terms with your struggles and using your own struggles and healing from them as motivation to help others. And so I absolutely believe in that. So that's why I created the 21-day challenge. And so the 21-day challenge, moving from your gutter to greatness, is the workbook that goes with it, because it's 21 days to break a habit. I want my brothers and sisters out there to pick this up so that they can start working on themselves to move from their gutters to greatness. And so start working on themselves, because it's 21 days of challenge. Actually, it's 24 days because there's 3 bonus days. But because guess what? In 21 days, if you're doing this every day, you know what? You might need some extra practice, but continue to work on yourself. And these are all self-reflective guided exercises that can help somebody work on themselves. So the workbook's there. I also have the online course for people to take that digs in deep too, which are all can be through my websites and all that stuff. But buildingcapacities.org, you can go and take the courses, the books, all that good stuff. But I say all that to say, like, that's what it's about to me, is that I need people to understand how crucial it is and how much we need to work on changing ourselves so that we can help change other people.
If Black people get all the therapy in the world, will it make a difference in the United States if white people don't get therapy too?
You know what? I believe it would. And you know what? Because as much as we need the systems to change, we're very broken. And so it always starts at home.
I done had every damn advantage for the past 400 years, and I'm still whining about some Black people whose ancestors worked for me for free. Number one, I can't count.
Yeah.
2, I'm a sluggard because I haven't been able to multiply those gifts. So who's the really ignorant son of a right here? Who's the really weak one?
Oh, absolutely.
Who's really weak? Is Elon Musk. Because let's put it out there. We revere this guy. Oh, he's a billionaire. He's an asshole.
Absolutely. And
who's digging up the moon.
And his thought process is trying to
language. Somebody need to take him and Donald Trump outside and whoop their ass. That's what they need.
And I think
know you weren't expecting that this
morning. No, I'm okay with that, because I speak it the way it is. And you know what? I don't believe they're doing anything that's helpful right now. And they try to mask it behind tax cuts and some other things that we're decreasing the deficit. Man, that's a bunch of racist rhetoric where they're trying to continue to oppress people.
Donald Trump would be a much more respectful person if he had my daddy. I promise you. Yeah. I promise you.
Yeah.
That's what he didn't get. And he's seemingly still trying to please his dead father. I mean, you can't give somebody greatness. Greatness is earned, is built, is forged in the crucible with fire and character and integrity. He has none.
And I believe that's why this country is.
It's going to implode.
I'm afraid
we're going to implode unless somebody takes him to Jesus.
I'm extremely worried for our country. I'm extremely worried about potential World War III and his foreign politics as well. Who
goes messing with Canada? You up there by Canada? Canada's like the little kid over there just minding his business.
Like Switzerland.
Sandwich.
You know, they're like Switzerland.
Or
they're pretty neutral. Don't bother nobody.
Who messes with Greenland? Now that's a real. We got names I better not say on the show, but that's a real sucker. You mess with Greenland. Go mess with Russia. Go mess with North Korea. Go mess with Iran. And then all these little countries, you heard of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, China, them cats get together. They're going to slow walk America.
Right.
He got rid of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Charles O. Brown, highest ranking black general, second highest next to Colin Powell.
Right, he was a 4-star, I think, 4-star, 5-star general, and then put this.
No, then he get rid of the lady from the Navy. So no, anything not. So we got all white males. So now white males want to work.
Yeah. You know what's crazy to me is the black and that's supporting us. My black and brown supporting this is a lot of coonery to me, because I just don't understand how anybody could support the things that are happening when it's happening right before your eyes. And I don't get it. You know, you think you're going to get an extra refund check because of this? Like, that little $2,000 ain't worth it. You know,
are our young people wrong for selling crack? Are they wrong for selling dope? They're put into this maze, this trap. Are they wrong for selling it?
No, it's definitely a trap, and I definitely think, you know, it's, and I would be a
what do they care? Their aunt was strung out. Their uncle was strung out. Their father was strung out. Their father was locked up. But this is worse than slavery, because we're doing it to ourselves.
Right.
And then we want to revere the drug dealer. Oh, I want to be like him. No, you don't.
And, you know, and I understand that life, as I was a part of that life as a youth. And early on in my maturation process, you know, I participated in some of those activities where, you know, I definitely understand both sides of the coin, but feeling like I had no other way, and feeling like that was going to be my way out. And you know what, really, for me, it was my spiritual guidance, that I had God telling me that wasn't what I needed to be doing. And so I had God guiding me. Like, I would have incidents. I remember, and real story, I was riding with a pack one time, and I got a flat tire. And I remember just being really afraid, because I really wasn't built for that life. That wasn't really what I was supposed to be doing, but I was doing it anyways, right? And so I was riding with it, and I got the flat tire, and I was extremely nervous and scared. I felt like, man, what happens if somebody stops me or I get arrested or whatever? I just felt like, but I heard God telling me, like, I heard God speaking to me saying, this is your warning. Like, I felt like this was the warning, and the warning from God saying, like, you know what, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. And yeah, it's just a flat tire, but it could have been something else. And the trajectory of your life could be changing, and you need to get out of this. You need to be doing something else. You need to be doing something different. And I needed to listen to that, because instead of being part of the problem, I needed to find my way out, change my mindset, and work towards a different type of solution, which education was my way out. And so, you know, it can be a lot of people's way out, and it doesn't have to be a formal education of school. There can be trades, workforce. There can be other things that provide you, but the education is the knowledge, and the knowledge that you can turn into some type of applicable skill to empower yourself. And so, you know, I just knew that God didn't want that for me, but I had to listen to that voice. And, you know, I think God gives everybody that voice, brother, and not to get on the sermon or anything, because I'm
need a sermon.
You know, but God gives everybody that voice, you know what? And that voice, we all have, like, the good voice and the bad voice, like the good me and the bad me type of thing, where, you know what, we often turn the good voice down, because the bad voice is usually easier to listen to. And we think that it's going to get us to our outcomes quicker. So we're listening, and it becomes more powerful, becomes stronger. But we got to turn that bad voice down. And that's that conscious. We all got it. And we know that when God's speaking to us and telling us we're not supposed to be doing something, we turn it off. Like when that man's out there about to go make moves on his wife or whatever, he heard, nah, don't do that. But he turned it down and did it anyways, you know, and he might have his reasons, or she might not be treating him right, or everything else that might be going on. But he still knew that wasn't right. Turn that voice down. And so when God's speaking to you, you need to listen to that voice and turn that voice up. And as you amplify that voice and it starts speaking louder, it becomes easier to listen to and move in the right direction. And I knew I had to start listening, man. And that's what kind of started to work towards changing my life, is I never lost that spiritual connection and listening to what God wanted for me. And I believe that's the guide, that if more people turn that voice on, we would move into a better place a lot quicker.
Male and female, we all got to listen more.
Yes, sir. God's speaking to us. He's speaking to you right now. There's people out there that are listening or going to listen to this that got some choices to make and that will hear the voice speak to them, but will purposely and deliberately not listen because they have free choice and free will.
Well, let me just put it out there. Drug dealers are terrorists in our community.
Yes, sir.
Drug dealers. You selling heroin, cocaine, crack cocaine in our communities, you are a terrorist. And if your bullshit excuse is you can't make money any other way, then maybe you should be locked up.
Take your skills and do it differently. And that's the thing. Take the skills that you had, because you know what the truth is, I'm a hustler. And when I say hustler, not trying to get over on people, but I'm a hustler. I'm going to find a way to make it. I'm going to find a way to do it. I'm going to take the skills that I have and I'm going to put them into being successful and find a way to make it so I don't have to depend on anybody else.
That drug thing really did mess us up. Going to the
Absolutely
late 80s through the 90s, this money. And if you think about how much money and life that crack alone snatched out of our community,
it was
how much has been lost, how many lives, the AIDS, the prostitution.
It was almost like a genocide. Trying to get rid of the Black family and the Black person, and you think about even where it started, the government helped pump that into the streets.
Oh, yeah, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, they helped pump that in to fund the war in Nicaragua. Like
Colonel Oliver North, U.S. government bringing in the cocaine. We know they dirty.
Please.
Just like Vietnam, we know they got the heroin. You saw Frank Lucas, you saw Frank White, you saw them cats going to Cambodia, to Vietnam. Vietnam got dope. Afghanistan got dope. Afghanistan got more dope than anywhere in the world. But watch this. Where the fentanyl come from?
Mm-hmm.
The fentanyl come from China.
Right.
And it's like, oh, the Chinese, they mean. Check this out. In 1997, China just got back Hong Kong. Who had Hong Kong? The British. The British had Hong Kong because of the opium wars. This dope game is old. They've been slinging dope around the world.
Right.
China just got Hong Kong back. So now, peep this. You took Hong Kong from China. You took their moneymaker. You took their hustler. Now they got it back. Now American streets are filled with fentanyl. You can't complain.
No.
You reap what you sow.
And it's so crazy because as you know, Donnie, they have the two different penalties for crack and for cocaine, and that was purposeful because they knew that Black people couldn't afford the cocaine, but the crack was so easy and accessible and so addictive, and it really eradicated such a large piece of the population. And then the other people that it didn't kill, it ended up making sure they were incarcerated. And, that's just, it's brainwashed the whole last couple generations. So the last 30, 40 years have been fulfilled with this almost eradication mentality of that crack epidemic that killed our communities and created so many street wars over something that again has done nothing but harm. And so we need to work to and that's where we got to do our work, man. We got to change this. We got to change this and heal from the trauma and make a conscious choice because it's a decision to do something differently.
I don't know this young lady's name. This is a lady, right?
Yes.
But I would the preachers would say the source of the trauma is sin. From a secular standpoint, I would say the source is greed. I used to tell my daddy about white people growing up, complaining to him about racism. He said to me, and I'll share it with you. He said, the first person you need to be mad at is the greedy ass African king who sold you over here. Now, let me just add this. We have to be careful not to buy into the storyline given to us by the quote unquote oppressors. I'm not one to believe that Black people came here in the bottom of a slave ship, specifically, solely. My history tells me that black people, brown people have been in the Americas not for hundreds of years, but for thousands of years. So rather than viewing ourselves as descendants of slaves, some of us are descendants of prisoners of war.
Mm-hmm.
That might be too deep for some people. I don't know. We don't know what was going on in America in 1300 because there were no written records. But you can look around the country and see 450 mound pyramids. We know when the Moors left the Iberian Peninsula, they went somewhere. It could have been here because Columbus followed the Moors to America.
Absolutely, and been around for so much longer, and it's more than the slave history. And recently I was reading something where someone said, it wasn't so much of where they said it wasn't. It was more of where, think about it in terms of folks from one country selling folks from another country. And so like often they were saying people were selling their own into slavery, but they weren't necessarily selling their own. They were looking at it as they sold people from another country. So like, and it was, yes, it's because it was in Africa. It might've been black on black countries, but very different countries. So it's like somebody from America selling somebody from Europe, and not feeling bad about it, even though regardless is wrong, but it goes back to that greed, and it goes back to that brokenness of why would you sell anybody? And is that really what, just being a child of God?
The tribe lost.
Yeah.
It's all over the world. The Asians have done it. The Turks, the Ottoman Turks, they sold. You got Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia, Slavic slave countries. Czechoslovakia, slave country.
Yeah.
It's worldwide. We internalize it because we in America, black, white. But it's global.
Yes, sir.
The Hutus and the Tutsis. We've never seen two brothers fight like that before. The Hutus and the Tutsis.
And that mentality, and it's often even carried over to where, we're fighting each other. And when we should be coming together, we should be working together to solve some of these issues. But I'm going to go back to it starts at home. You can't solve any of these issues unless you fix yourself first. So, and we need to make conscious decisions to fix ourselves and be okay with understanding that you're broken, but making that conscious decision to do something different. Because what I deeply believe is before Doni can help somebody else, he got to help himself. So as you continue to heal and make that conscious decision and educate yourself, then you have the ability to now help somebody else. But it starts at home. And so we got a lot of folks who like to blame others, but aren't working on fixing themselves.
Or you got people who are real good at pointing out what's wrong with you, but can't look in the damn mirror.
Absolutely. And so it needs to start at home. I needed to start with me. I can't do this work if I'm not willing to fix myself and take criticism and try to be a better person. And by no means am I perfect. I got my issues, which you could read about in From the Gut to the Greatness. I got a ton of issues, but I work on them. I'm making a conscious effort to try to heal and doing things daily to try to work towards that while keeping my connection to God and listening to that voice so I can continue to escalate and elevate so I can help other people as well. But I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not perfect. I know I got to work on me.
I want to tell you publicly that I have a lot of love for Omega Psi Phi. It was the first fraternity that I saw as a young man in West Baltimore. Some cats came through the mall and they had on military fatigues and they had bass in their voice. They looked like men. They acted like men.
Yes, sir.
So shout out to Omega Psi Phi. My god brother's been a long time member. I never pledged, but let's see your books, Dr. Miller. You got them nearby? So
I don't, which I should have been prepared with them. And my apologies. I actually, for transparency purposes, they're down in my storage because I'll be grabbing them. I'm going to do this training. I got to drive to Buffalo, New York to do a training. And so I'm going to have some books with me as I do this training. And the trainings actually are on, the topic is called The Struggles of Life. I'm trying to work with these teachers to identify their own struggles so they can empathize and identify with students better. And so that they can see that their struggles might not be a lot different, even though they may come from different places and look differently. And how do they become more empathetic individuals by understanding themselves so they can understand students better? And so that's the training. I apologize. I could definitely, potentially share my screen in a second and pull the books up.
Okay, well, you go ahead and pull them up. I'm going to put a plug in. I got to sell these books every day, and we ain't giving away nothing. You just got to find, it's the sweet spot. You just got to find the sweet spot on what works, because people will buy the book.
Oh, absolutely. I got people buying it all over the world. It's just in Rochester, my brother.
Oh no, I understand. The home, once you learn home,
yeah,
it's like a recipe, and nobody cooking like grandma. So you might have to go in the kitchen and find out what grandma put into that pot to make everybody come to grandma's house for the holidays. The same with selling that book. You just gotta massage that recipe, because at home is the toughest crowd, man. There we go.
Yes, sir. So there's the cyberbullying. We need to do better 2.0, from gutter to greatness, and the 21-day challenge workbook. And you can go right to buildingcapacities.org. That's one of the sites you can go to, and I'm happy to share with the audience, but go on in and check them out. It is life-changing. You will read this, and I've had some people read this and say that this is the first book that they feel like will help them save their marriage, because this woman said she needed to understand her Black husband better, and that she needed to understand how to address and understand some of the things he may be going through, and that she believed he would read it because it was written in a way that would tap into his spirit, versus a lot of things that are written the way they are not necessarily written for us, by us. It's done in a way that speaks around us. And this directly speaks to us and our soul and our spirit.
So Christopher Wilson says, how come a prophet is not welcome in his hometown? I don't know. It happened to some of the greatest. However, if it pushes you to take your book to other cities, other states, then by all means do it. But they always, hey, Chris Wilson, Mike Jones, back then they didn't want you. Now they all on you. So just hang in there, because they will be back around.
I ain't worried.
Well, no, this is for Christopher Wilson. He was he has a question. Why isn't it? You got a thought on that?
Oh man, I don't know. Maybe because people are so comfortable with you and they know you, that they look at you different.
Pull that damn $20 out and stop playing. You buy a shot of Hennessy for $20.
Absolutely. But it also means that they would actually have to do something with it and read it. So do something with it, read it. Because at the end of the day,
surround yourself with people who do celebrate you. I don't want to be around negative, downtrodden spirits when I'm trying to go forward. I want to surround myself with people going in that direction, strong people.
Absolutely. And as I build, and I build and navigate this world, my goal is to absolutely do that, like surrounding myself with brothers like you, as we connected, a very short time ago. But I already know that we locked in, like I, at the end of the day, man, I believe in what you're doing in that mission. And that's my goal, is to stand with people who are trying to do this work and trying to create change and trying to build a message that out there that helps support people. And you know what? People catch on late. And so when they catch on, they catch on. But as they catch on, you know what? It's already growing, and it's growing in spite of, regardless of who's willing to support or not, because nobody can hold back what God has destined for you.
Not even you. Dr. Miller, that'll have to be the final word. We have to get out of here. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest way is go to www.drpmiller.com, drpmiller.com, drpmiller.com. All my info is there. You can go in and see books, The Educated Black Mentor. My day job is CEO of Charter Champions. supporting charter schools in Rochester, New York, 27 of them, actually opening 4 schools myself. You can go there and check it out, drpmiller.com. And if you go to Facebook, again, Dr. Paul Miller, Instagram, Doc Miller 42, or I'm sorry, From the Gutter to Greatness is the Instagram, but the easiest way is drpmiller.com.
Good deal. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, world.
Thank you for having me.